Now that we have done all of the hero's journey and looked at all of the myths and myth lore, you guys are going to be doing a research assignment. This will be our first and most in-depth research assignment that we do all year. So let's talk a little bit about this research assignment. We are going to be making an argument within our research assignment that the hero's journey connects all myths across all time. So our major claim, we can simply write the hero's journey connects all myths across all time and all cultures. Now we may come back and we may modify that, but that's what we're going to start with, right? Because every culture that we looked at, all of these cultures were using the hero's journey somehow within their mythologies. So what we're going to do is we are going to have you guys all look at classical mythology. So our first mythology category is going to be classical mythology. And then there's going to be the ability for you to choose two more mythologies. You can choose from European mythology, Asian mythology, American mythology, African mythology, or Oceanic mythology. So those are going to be our two different categories of choice. Whichever you wish to choose, you can simply write here and over here. So for me, let me think. What do I want to choose? I'm going to choose African mythology. And I'm also going to choose European mythology. Okay, so this is going to be my three choices. You can choose two of those other ones. Everybody will be doing this classical mythology. Everybody will be doing classical mythology. So here's where things are going to get kind of complex. So we're going to write down the three different mythologies that we're going to be looking at. And I also chose European. And our goal is to get a bingo. Now what I mean by that is I want to get three different myth stories from each one of these categories across. So as we start doing our research, there will be the mythology book, or if this is on Canvas, there will be the chapters broken out on Canvas. So we need to find three different stories, one story from each category. So if I go to classical mythology, for instance, let me go ahead and erase my squiggles. Let's go African mythology. I know that in classical mythology, there are three different stories that may work here. I have first the birth of Zeus, the birth of Athena, or Leda and the Swan. And if I was looking at African mythology with the miraculous birth and hiding of the child. I'm going to have from my options the stories of Shu and Tefnut. So I'm going to say Shu and Tefnut. And I've got another one here, the Ened. E-N-N-E-A-D. And if I look at my European mythologies, I'm going to have Arthur, the legend of King Arthur. And I'm also going to have this one called Birth of the Dwarves, Men and Women. So I'm going to say Birth of Dwarves, Men and Women. Okay. Now, obviously, I've given these ones to you. You guys would be finding these on your own. However, once you've found these stories, what you'll have to do is you'll actually have to go and you'll have to read each of these stories, or one of these stories. It kind of depends on what you want to do. And you're going to need to take notes of how the story of Zeus uses the miraculous birth, or how the story of Tefnut uses the miraculous birth, or how the story of Arthur uses the miraculous birth. And the goal will be to get 3 steps of the hero's journey with 3 different myth categories. So when we talk about getting a bingo, if I was to do the trials and quests, I would need to get a story that fit here, here, and here. And if I was going to do Descent into the Underworld, I would need to get all 3 categories going across. This will not work if you get a myth story here and a myth story here and then another one here. We're not looking at getting a bingo this way. That is a no. We are looking at getting a myth story straight across the board so that we can compare classical mythology to African mythology to European mythology. We want to look at all 3 of these categories with the same step of the hero's journey. Once we get that done, so again, I've done this miraculous birth and hiding of the child in classical mythology, African, and European. I'm then going to go to the first chosen step. So my first chosen step was classical mythology. So I'm going to say, it'd be helpful if I could spell. Classical mythology. Oh, actually, so then when we go to the first chosen step. Now, my first chosen step, I'm referring to the step of the hero's journey. So in this case, the first chosen step is going to be the birth or hiding. So, my minor claim. I'm going to make this a little bit simple, and I'm simply going to say something like the miraculous birth and hiding of the child, the birth and hiding step of the hero's journey, helps connect classical mythology European mythology, and African mythology. It helps connect these 3 mythologies as, I'm going to squeeze it in here, as heroes in these myths are born in an extraordinary way or hidden to grow up. Okay, so this is my minor claim. My minor claim is supporting all the way up here my major claim. So my major claim, the hero's journey connects all myths across all time and all cultures. So the first thing I'm going to look at is the miraculous birth and hiding of the child myth, connecting European mythology, classical mythology, and African mythology. And I'm going to clarify that maybe in my topic sentence here. And then I'm going to start filling in my research. So I'm going to need evidence from my Greek myths or Roman myths from the book here. I want the evidence. Whatever evidence I found in my story, right? I had 3 different stories to choose from. The evidence from here goes right here. So let's maybe make a little asterisk. This connects to here. So my story of Zeus, however I knew that that story fit the miraculous birth and hiding of the child, needs to go here. And then I'll explain how the myth, so these 2 here, how do we know the myth uses the hero's journey? That's going to be our reasoning. And I'll do that for my classical mythology. And then I'll come here. I'm going to do that from my African mythology and my European mythology. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to plug in here. And I'm going to plug in here. So I have now proved, obviously, evidence will go. More stuff here. And more stuff here. Okay. Now that, all of that is for simply one step of the hero's journey. And I need 3 steps of the hero's journey. So I will then proceed to do my second chosen step. So if my second chosen step was going to be the underworld, and maybe my third chosen step is going to be trials, quests, I'll then simply repeat this. I'll find my myths from each category, here, here, and here, and I will plug them in each of the evidence boxes. One will go here. Number 2 will go here. Number 3 will go here. And all this will accumulate until we get to the point where we will start putting this actually in a paper. So that is how you do the Mythology packet. Hopefully this video is a help. If you have any questions, reach out to me in an email.